Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen and this is my September wrap-up. And I have had a good reading month this month. I read 4 books this month, starting with The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. I finally finished it! So yes, as you may know if you've been watching, I've been working my way through The Inheritance Cycle this year so that I could read the short story collection he published last year, The Fork, the Witch, and the Worm, which I am now going to be starting to read tomorrow. I'm very excited. Spoiler warning for the entire series, by the way. It had been a while since I read the series, so I wanted to refresh my memory, but this is one of my childhood favorites. I've read Aragon and Eldest many times, but Brazinger I've only read 2, maybe 3 times, and Inheritance I have only read once or twice before this. So definitely there was a lot about this book I did not remember. Basically the only things I remembered about this book were the trip to Rowengard, the original home of the writers, and how it ends, the final battle sequence with the king specifically, not the battle sequence that follows Roran or anything after the final battle with the king or anything else in the book. So yeah, it was really fun. A lot of it was kind of almost like a first time read because I really had very choppy memories on this one. But yeah, getting into the reading experience first, I think it's really convenient how it worked out that there ended up being 4 books instead of 3. That way we got 4 of these lovely portraits of all of the main dragons in the series. No Shuriken, of course, but the other dragons at least. But yeah, as far as the actual book, getting into it from the beginning, the first chapter tries really hard to convince you that the stakes are high and anyone can die, which was an exciting first chapter, but it did not really live up to that promise because nobody of real emotional importance really dies. One of the exciting things early in the books is we get to see more Weir Cats and learn more about the Weir Cats, which they're a very mysterious creature, very fun creatures. I like cats, of course. But getting to see them more kind of almost took a little bit of the mystery away and made it less fun. Oh, speaking of cats, my cat wants out. You have to say hello first. Princess Mako wants to leave, so I'm making her say hello first, so she can then say goodbye. Okay, you can go. Okay, Weir Cats, back to the Weir Cats. So yeah, getting to see more of them was fun and cool, but also it sort of took away from their whole being mysterious thing just a little bit. Although they were still pretty mysterious, we didn't actually learn that much more about them. And then of course, early in the book, we also get Elaine finally giving birth to her baby that she has been pregnant with the entire series. And I appreciate how Horst was there in the tent with her, kind of ignoring olden traditions of the men not being present at the birth. It was a nice detail. And I liked in this book we got to see some more of Nazueda's leadership skills. She's still a BAMF. Does anyone still say that? I do. And then Roran gets sent on his mission to Eros. If you haven't seen me talking about these in my past wrap-ups, Roran is a little bit boring for me. And his trip to Eros very much felt like Roran needs to have something to do at the beginning of this book, otherwise he will not be relevant until the very end, and that's no good, so let's send him down south to defeat this town, and then come right back. And it was a lot of pages, and didn't really change anything about the book. So it just felt very pointless, and like we were just trying to give Roran something to do. And then we get the entire sequence of Aragon invading Dros Leona and learning more about Helgrind, which was all super interesting, and I 1000% did not remember any of it. So yeah, it was very interesting to learn more about Helgrind and the Rizak and this mysterious religion. Although Angela uses magic in that part of the book, and I did not think she was a magic user. I mean, I know they call her a witch, but like it seemed like she was more of a potions user and stuff like that and wasn't actually a magic user, so I was kind of thrown off by that. I was very excited that we got some more Saphira chapters in this book. Not a lot, again, but always nice to be in her perspective. And I thought it was kind of funny after Nazueda is kidnapped, sad, that Aragon becomes kind of leader of the Varden and then just immediately pieces out. He's like, I gotta go to Vrongard, guys. So we never really get to see much of his leadership skills, which I suppose is fine because he never really becomes a leader, per se. But yeah, it would have been an interesting challenge to see him have to handle. But it's all good because it leads to one of my favorite parts of the book, which is Aragon and Saphira discovering their true names, which is just a really great section of the book. I love that Saphira discovers her name first. It makes sense that she's a little more self-aware than Aragon, and Aragon's reaction to her figuring out her true name is just so beautiful. We love a supportive king. He just immediately is like, oh, Saphira, after learning your true name, I'm so proud to be bonded with you, and it's just such a cute moment. And then, of course, going on at the same time is all this kind of an alternating perspective is Nazueda in her kidnapping, which she handles like a boss, as she does everything. And I really like her romance storyline with Murtaugh. And then after those two storylines Aragon's kind of wraps up and Nazueda kind of is left in mystery as to her status, we start to get into the final battles, which there are kind of two final battles going on. There's the final battle in the castle, in the throne room, between Aragon and the king and some of Aragon's friends. And then there's the battle happening outside the castle, which is mostly focused on Roran. And Roran is just being a badass like usual, which, good for him. And between these two battles, the only death we get is Queen Islanzadi, who is the Queen of the Elves. She is Arya's mother, but it's just not a very emotional death. Maybe I just don't value Islanzadi as a character as much as some people might, I'm not sure. But her death held very little emotion for me. She's not a part of our core cast of characters. So I feel like here it was a very dramatic death. Islanzadi is the Queen of the Elves. She's very powerful. So killing her off is very dramatic, but not very emotional. So I feel like we also needed a much more emotional death in one of these battles. And I feel like that should have been either Murtaugh or Roran. Murtaugh and Roran both are brother figures for Aragon. Roran is Aragon's cousin, and they have grown up together their entire lives, and Murtaugh is Aragon's half-brother, and they traveled together and went through a lot of emotional stuff together, and so Aragon considers them both to be brothers, and so I feel like losing one of the brother figures would have been a really emotional death while still leaving the other brother figure kind of intact. But getting into the end of the battles, kind of the end of everything, it's a pretty controversial ending. The king, Galbatorix, our villain, was built up to be extremely powerful, and so there was kind of a lot riding on how he is defeated. And a lot of people feel like it was kind of cheating. So how Aragon defeats him is he basically just casts a spell using the dragons to make Galbatorix feel what he's done to everyone, to make him understand all the damage he has caused. So in a sense, it is sort of cheating, but I'm okay with this ending because it's been long established that dragons can do crazy stuff, and Galbatorix was so built up as a villain that the idea of it being this big spur-of-the-moment dragon spell, it feels like the only way to have done that, and like this was a well-established thing that dragons were like this. And as far as the making him feel stuff, I feel like some people think that's really sappy, but I don't know, I kind of interpret it not just as he's feeling the emotions of what he's done, but also maybe the physical pain that he has put people through. And so that would be a lot of physical pain to be feeling all at once. So the idea that it could destroy you is really believable. I mean, even just what he put Nazueta through in this one book was a lot of physical pain. So I don't know, I was always kind of okay with this ending. But then after this ending, we have a very long wrap-up. And as a part of the wrap-up, I thought, or as a part of the battle, when I first read the book, so when I first read the book, for either the battle or the wrap-up stuff, I thought that there would be a spy, that there would be maybe a sudden big death after everyone had won and was celebrating. I thought maybe a spy would come out of the shadows and cause a big emotional death just when everyone thought they had won. And that did not happen, despite the fact that it was hinted at very hard throughout the entire book. Galbatorix and everyone kept saying, Murtaugh kept saying, Galbatorix kept saying, I've got spies everywhere, I've got eyes everywhere. After they won the battle, everyone kept saying, we gotta stay on the lookout. Galbatorix has spies high up, everywhere, eyes everywhere. People are still supporting him even though he's gone. So it was hinted very strongly that someone would turn out to be a spy. And the first time I read it, I thought that it would end up being Jormungandr, because not because there are any clues dropped about him, there really aren't, but just because he's kind of Nazueta's right-hand man. He sort of is privy to all the information and all that, and it was so strongly implied that there was going to be a spy. So I kind of just thought it would be him, and then there was no spy at all. Nothing happened. But other than that, and despite the fact that the wrap-up was very long, it was a nice wrap-up. I liked how it really tied up all of the loose ends. I liked Aragon's visit with the Urgles. Yeah, I liked getting to know all the loose end information. So yeah, there's a very long, rambling review. Very happy that I got to reread this after so many years, and really excited for the short stories that I am starting tomorrow. And so I will be talking about those in next month's wrap-up. But moving along with this wrap-up, because it's getting long already and I've got 3 more books to go. The next book I read was Words in Deep Blue by Cath Crowley, which was a reread. This is one that I got from the First in Line Club, that I was really super excited for the first time I read it. I had gotten 2 really good books from that club, and this one had such a cute, fun concept that I thought it would be really, really good, and then it was slower than I thought it would be, and I ended up not liking it as much as I thought. And so I went into this reread thinking I would possibly be deciding to get rid of it. But then on reread, I don't know why I thought it was so boring the first time I read it. I don't know if it's because I went into it the first time with the really high expectations, and so then it inevitably was a disappointment. And this time I went into it with really low expectations because of that, and therefore it exceeded those expectations. Life is funny, I don't know. Yeah, it's still not like a new top favorite, but I don't know why I thought it was so boring. It is actually a really cute concept, which I had already known going into it. But yeah, I think I connected with it more on this reread, and I am definitely going to keep it. So this book is about 2 main characters, one of whom's family owns a bookshop, and in the bookshop they have this room where they don't sell the books. It is their letter library, so people can come in and read the books and leave letters for other people who read the books. And so our other main character, who's been friends with this boy her whole life and had a crush on him her whole life, is moving, and she leaves him a love letter in one of the books. And he doesn't reply, which upsets her, and so she stops talking to him. And then the book picks up a few years later when she's moving back into town. And she has not told her friend that her brother died a year ago. So yeah, really cute concept. Takes place a lot in a bookshop. The idea of leaving the letters in the books is really cute. It has a pretty strong beginning. It's got a lot of John Green references, which I like. And I liked Henry's love of ellipses. Very random thing to enjoy, but I did. I will say the reveal from the girl to the boy that her brother has been dead for a year didn't seem big enough. And there were a couple moments in the book that seemed to go by too fast for what they were, that they didn't seem played up enough for what they were. Like, there's this one kind of mysterious character who's on the search for this book the entire time, and when he reveals why, again, it just doesn't seem like a big enough reveal for how big of a reveal it is, and it just sort of seems a little bit rushed. But one reveal that did not feel that way was the reveal of the main girl's brother's death to another character was spot on perfect. You kind of followed that convoluted sentence. And then there's this other fun detail in this book. This is slightly spoilery because it's like a cute, unexpected thing in the book, but the author has a handwritten note in the book telling the story of a hard time in her life when her friend left her kind of a book scavenger hunt in a library, and that sort of was partly the inspiration for this book and got her back into books and writing and words. And it's just really cute and did lead to the whole letter library concept in the book, which is also cute. And it all does make annotating books sound kind of tempting, but I just can't bring myself to do it. And then yeah, this book also had a cute ending. The way the letter library transmigrates from the bookstore into other bookstores at the end was really nice and cute. And yeah, that seems to be the operative word for this book. Cute. The next book I read was Towers Falling by Jewel Parker Rhodes. This is a middle grade novel about 9/11. So I read this in honor of 9/11 because I think it's important to keep these stories alive. That being said, I did not love this book. I think maybe partly because it is middle grade, I didn't fully connect with it. There was a lot of emotional jumps in this book. Characters would jump from one emotion to another with very little explanation, and yeah, it just felt very jumpy and strange to follow the train of thought, which this might be because it's about kids and kids can be very emotional, but yeah, it didn't really work for me. It was a little bit jarring. And then also this book had a lot of sentence fragments, which I'm not trying to be like the grammar police with that. Like, it's fine. It's a fine style choice to make. It just did not work for me because it was just too many. So yeah, definitely not my favorite book of the year. It wasn't terrible. I just didn't really connect with this one. And my final book of the month was The First Girl Child by Amy Harmon. And this was a 5-star read for me. This is my first book of the year to be a 5-star read that is not a reread. I got this from the Scribbler subscription box for writers, like probably almost a year ago now, but my TBR is so long that it's just been sitting on there this whole time. I really enjoyed the feminism undertones in this book. The concept of the book can kind of be built around this one quote at the beginning, and it goes, "We are abused, we are used, we are bartered and abandoned, but rarely are we loved. So be it. From this day forward, there will be no daughters in Saylock for any of you to love." So this is a fantasy novel in which a woman who has been spurned by who she thought would be her husband gives birth, and before she dies, she lays a curse on the land that there will be no more daughters. And a lot of the book is built on Norse mythology, so that was really interesting and fun to read about. The book kind of reminded me a lot of Three Dark Crowns, which I read last year and was another 5-star read. So that was exciting. It had just a really strong setup. I feel like if you can boil it down to one quote that the book is built on top of, it's kind of a good setup. And so yeah, I just loved this book a lot. There was another great quote in here that went, "To show you mercy now would be to show no mercy to those you will prey upon next." So I also really liked that quote. And then there was also this moment at the end that was really great that is spoilery. I love the scene where Ghost murders the king, and He asks who she is, and she says that she's everyone that he's ever wronged, and then declares herself the new highest keeper. It was just a very great ending to the final battle, and great way for the good guys to win. Only two things annoyed me in the book. One was a very small detail in which the author really likes ellipses, which I know I just said I love ellipses, but there was way too many ellipses in this book. And then the other thing was that it does have the older brother figure slash protector figure to lover trope, which I just always find kind of creepy. But it certainly didn't put me off enough to dislike the book. I still gave it 5 stars. So yeah, definitely my probably favorite new read of the year. So yeah, these were the 4 books that I read this month. It was a pretty good reading month. I was so happy to finally finish the Inheritance cycle and discover a new 5-star read. Let me know down below what you've been reading lately. Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.